Great. Hello, everyone, and welcome today to today's Junior Achievement Virtual Career Speaker Panel. Very excited to have you join us today. My name is Michelle Anderson, and I'm the president of Junior Achievement of Maine. And we have a great lineup of speakers today that are going to talk all about the trades industry. So before I introduce our guests, thought we could make this interactive. So please, using the chat feature, when you think of the trades, what comes to mind? Take a few moments, a word, a phrase, what comes to mind when you think of the trades industry? And while you do take a minute and do that, I'm going to introduce our panelists today. Shawn Moody is the founder of Moody's Coworker Owned. Moody's Coworker Owned is a vehicle collision center that is owned by the majority of its 240 coworkers serving 14 communities. Sam Weber is a lineman of Central Maine Power, also known as CMP. And CMP is an electric power delivery company that brings power to over 640,000 customers across the state of Maine. And last but not least is Rob Miller, Director of Manufacturing for Puritan Medical Products. Puritan is an American company known worldwide for trusted manufacturer of single-use medical products. Puritan products are manufactured, packaged, and shipped from their state-of-the-art manufacturing facilities in Maine. And a big thank you to all three, Moody's Coworker Owned, Central Maine Power, and Puritan Medical Products for sponsoring today's panel and really seeing the importance of introducing students to the trades. So before I turn it over to our facilitator, I see a lot of great words in the chat: welding, electrician, plumbing, money, high demand skill sets, needed, profit. These are all really great words, and I think we're going to be able to answer a lot of questions and provide some really great insight today. So I would like to introduce the panelists and our facilitator for the panelists today, Shawn Moody. A question again for the audience. Do you guys think Shawn started his company while in high school, while in college, or later in life? Go ahead and write in the chat. I see high school, one for college. Shawn, why don't you answer that question for us and tell us a little bit about your career path? And I'm going to have you get off mute.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you, Michelle. Thanks for the reminder. I started out actually in high school. My mom, who had moved from our home, but she rented the house out, but I was able to keep the garage to work in at our home. So I actually, when I got out of school, I'd go over to the garage and work on cars, helping fix vehicles up. But actually, when I was younger, I started out as a jock. I loved sports up until middle school, and then all of a sudden, Corvettes and hot rods started going by the house. So I was out shooting baskets as a Corvette repair shop up the street. And I started riding my bike up, and they put me to work. So that's really where I developed my skills and learned the trade. And it was a lot of fun, obviously, on top of that. So I saved my money. I worked a lot of overtime through the summer and ended up building a 3-bay garage and bought a quarter-acre piece of land right here in Gorham. And that kind of launched Moody's Body Shop, if you will. And again, it was no big ribbon cutting. It was out in the woods. And my teachers, actually, my educators, were my best customers. They had faith in me, try to get a young person started, like they have faith in you. So we took advantage of that. On a personal note, I want to give you a little bit of my personal background, because I know a lot of you out there come from a whole different variety of backgrounds and living situations. And my mom, had some health problems, mental health problems. And so part of what I had to do was kind of go out and make a living. Financially, we weren't in the best shape. And luckily I found something I loved to do, and it was hands-on, and it was kind of an outlet for me, to deal with I don't know, it's frustration or just the emotional aspects of not having, a conventional home life. My dad and mom had gotten divorced like I was very young, like a year old, and my mom was a single mom, worked hard as a beautician to support my brother and my sister and I. So the reason I'm bringing that up and sharing that is I know a lot of you or some of you are in some similar situations. So I would just offer that, use that adversity in your life as a building block. Don't look at it like, oh, poor me. And yes, you get troubles, but other people do too. Those things that you learn at a young part of your life are going to be so valuable to make you a more understanding, more empathetic person, a stronger person. And so I would just encourage all of you to take that adversity and look at it. It's going to be a potential positive for you as you go further your life and your career.
That's some really good advice, Shawn. Thank you. What do you think the biggest misconception about a career in the trades is?
I think and again, a lot of educators on here, which we appreciate you participating, because I really feel like we're moving that narrative. It used to be go to, college or bust for the last 20 years. And unfortunately, people that maybe aren't passionate about furthering their academic from a traditional sense are dropping out of college and they are busted. So I think what we're learning is that we're all different. We have different aspirations. Some people have mechanical aptitude, want to work with their hands, and some people want the academic route, the conventional route, which if your field requires, like Sam and Rob in some ways, or Michelle, a college pathway to get a degree, a certification, accreditation, then you better stay focused on that path to achieve that dream or that career. But there are other occupations like ours that don't necessarily require a degree. You can go and get the on-the-job training, like companies like Moody's, and be very successful. These are lucrative careers. And I wouldn't say do it for the money. No one going to college to become a doctor for the money. It's got to be what you want to do as a person, gives you gratification and fulfillment. So I would say the biggest misconception, Michelle, in the trades is they're not equal. It's not occupational quality. You can go out in a very lucrative, very fulfilling, and very rewarding careers.
That's some great insight. I totally agree. So for the students watching today, Shawn, that are interested in getting into the trades, what's some advice that you can provide them?
Well, I guess I always kind of draw off my own experience. It's really about being active, getting out there, take a part-time job. And I would advise you to pay more attention to what you learn than what you earn. Obviously, you got to make money, it's why you're working. You want to have some spending money and sock some away. But the reality is, when you're young, you want to be a sponge. You want to soak up the knowledge. If you've got experienced craftsmen or women, if it's in the trades, you're going to learn a lifetime of experience through them. And they would be happy to coach you and help you if you're a good student. And I would just encourage you to look at some best in class, as I use that term, best in class employers in your local area, and go get a job there. And you're going to hear from Sam and Rob. You don't start at the top, but you take those entry level jobs like I did. I did all the jobs no one else wanted to do, stripping cars, sweeping the floor, and just work my way up. But the knowledge that you acquire is invaluable, and it's free. You're getting paid to learn in those environments.
That is such great advice and things that students can jump on today. So it seems like in the trade industry, there's a lot of flexibility, especially for those that want to be their own boss.
Yeah.
And so can you speak a little bit to how it can lead to some self-employment opportunities?
Well, the reality of self-employment, I used to go into Glenn Cummings' economics class back in the 80s. He and I have great friends, and they'd write what are the 3 reasons that you'd want to go into business? And it was make all the money you want, work whenever you want, and boss people around. That's the perspective of middle school, high school. Take it for where it's coming. And so I'd say to them, well, I'm going to kind of be a myth buster here. You're going to work harder than you ever thought possible. Whatever money you make, you got to put it back into the business to help it grow. So you're not going to make any money the first 3 or 4 years, trust me. And if you start bossing people around, you're going to be working alone. So get that out of the way. But I think in the trades industry, you can gravitate to self-employment at a much more affordable scale than some other traditional occupations or organizations. For instance, let's say that you want to be an electrician. An electrician to outfit an electrician, with a van, equipment, tools, you gotta have the experience, is much more cost effective and affordable than, say building a huge body shop or something. So I think the trades, you can go as an owner operator, self-employed after, and I'm going to caution you, go learn, go become a master craftswoman or man, so that when you go out in the field, go on your own, because you don't have anybody to go to anymore. You are the person. If you have a problem, you got to figure it out. So gain that necessary experience, do some side work, kind of feel what it's like to do your own billing, bidding, and things like that, and that can lead to self-employment. There's nothing any more gratifying if you go at it the right way. You can help so many people. The bigger the company gets, the more people you can reach and help and have a positive influence on. So it's extremely gratifying, but don't, it's a lot of work, and you better pick something you love to do, and you'll be successful beyond your dreams.
That is great, Shawn. Thank you so much for that insight. I think you can tell the passion you have, and it sounds like you have some really great advice for kids to find some employers in their area and see if they can get a part-time job or learn from some of these experts. So I will let you take it from here to facilitate with Sam and Rob.
Oh, thank you, Michelle. I'm going to introduce Rob. Excuse me. I get this. Okay. I'm going to introduce Rob, which actually Michelle previously introduced, to being the operations director at Puritan. And for you folks that you've heard the word Puritan, but back when COVID first hit, Puritan was one of the global, I'm talking international, global leaders in test swabs. Now you probably all experienced the swab. Don't be mad at Rob, okay? But just to mobilize a main company to have a global impact is phenomenal. So Rob, thank you for joining us. I got to ask you that same question to the listeners. Put on your chat screen. Do you think Rob aspired in high school? Okay, did he want to be an astronaut, or did he want to be an undercover police officer? If you could put that in your chat box. And again, an astronaut's not that far-fetched anymore, right? You're hearing all these space flights that people are just going up. I mean, obviously they got a few bucks to get up there, but it's becoming more affordable for regular people to blast off on a rocket. So maybe we'll get Rob in outer space here at some point in his life.
Maybe.
I see a lot of coming in. So most people, the majority said astronaut, Rob. So no, Rob wanted to be an undercover police officer.
Absolutely. That was my dream when I was in high school, for sure.
So Rob, you've spent decades at Puritan, holding many different jobs and responsibilities. I think for the students' sake, they can't see themselves beyond an entry-level job. How do you inspire them to dream big?
I would go back to the point that you stated right in the start of your conversation. You don't start at the top, you have to start somewhere. And in my case, I started sweeping the floor at our flagship facility, the one that we opened up with here in Maine. So as I moved up through the ranks, I didn't get there because of an education or any of those factors. I got there because I watched the jobs that were being done around me and I wanted to learn more. And I think an important aspect for whether you're in middle school or high school, that you are always aspiring to be better than what you are today. So, and by that, I mean, if you want to learn how to wash a car correctly, you watch somebody do it and then you modify your technique from there. It's the same with the trades and the facilities that I work at and now operate or run. I started out as sweeping the floor and I watched the people that did the technical work above me or beside me, and I tried to learn from them as we went, and it turns out that I had a technical aptitude and I was able to troubleshoot equipment. And then as I got better at that, I started looking beyond that and seeing what my bosses were doing and doing the administrative work and things like that. So I tagged along with them whenever I had the opportunity. If I was done with my tasks, I would ask them questions. I would follow along and I would just look over their shoulder if they would allow it. Some didn't like that, but a lot of people were open to that. And wanted the younger generation, which was where I fell in, to learn their jobs so that they could be successful and move up throughout the company. Our jobs are all self-taught because we use a lot of proprietary equipment that we build in-house, and it's built in-house by people that we train. So it's a never-ending cycle of bringing new people in, showing them what to do if they have the aspirations and the go-get attitude. It's all about attitude. The better your attitude is, the more likely people are to help you and show you what they're doing so that they can bring you up and mentor you and help you get to those positions where you're technically sound. And then obviously we try to promote within at the company here, Puritan, where I work. So if you show desire, we're more than willing to help bring people up through the ranks and get to a place in administration, technicians, which work on the equipment, electricians. We bring in some people from some of the trade centers. We have a technical community college, Tri-City Technical Center here in our area that pulls from many schools in the area, and they can get CDL licenses while they're still in high school. They can get nursing licenses. They can get cooking training, just a whole aspect or array of different jobs that they're allowed to excel at even before they leave high school. So I would encourage all of the young people on here today to take advantage of those programs, see their guidance counselors, talk to their teachers, principals, mentors, anybody that will listen and say, I want to do X, Y, or Z. And if you strive at that and show people that you're willing to learn, you can get there. I mean, I'm a prime example. I started out sweeping the floor, and now I run the company, or one of our 3 companies, and I have 300 or 400 people that report to me. So
Thank you.
It's definitely achievable on any scale if you are willing to put in the work.
Thank you. And we're going to talk more about accreditation, furthering your education in relationship to advancing yourself in the trades, because it's the thing I want to remind people that education is the constant. We're continuously educating ourselves every day, every week in different ways. Time is the variable. You may not be in a position, whether it's financially, emotionally, or academically, to go on and further your education in a conventional sense, but that doesn't mean you can't go back to school at any point in time. And in some cases, you're going to hear from, and Sam, and it's necessary, to advance yourself in the trades. So Rob, to follow up on that, for students that are listening, wondering about, job stability, growth, specific to the trade industry, what are your thoughts? What are your experiences for people that want to go into the trades? How viable and stable are these trades in the foreseeable future?
Well, right now, all 3 of our facilities are all looking for technicians. That's people that can actually work on our proprietary equipment. And again, we train from within, but we also do try to work with some of the schools around, whether it be high school or the technical colleges or the technical centers, and get people in for those. Currently at my facility alone, I have 8 open positions. And then we try to promote from within. If you come in as an operator that runs a machine, or even a custodial person, and show aptitude and ability and willingness, we try to promote within. So those jobs, the technical jobs, are very, there's a lot of them currently, just speaking from my company, and they're hard to fill because some people think that they have to have an education to do that. That's not necessarily true. We like educated people as well. I mean, there is definitely a benefit and a place for education, and we certainly look at those applicants equally as well as we look at uneducated or college educated people. We hire right out of high school in a lot of cases, and allow people that opportunity to work until they can afford to go to school in some cases. We also will train within and send people to external schools and seminars and things like that so that they can get different qualifications that we might need that don't fall under an uneducated or post-secondary school education. So those opportunities exist once you get in the door at places like Puritan as well, because we will help people with that education and those costs to get them to a better place, which also helps us and helps our workforce here.
Rob, thank you. That's just fascinating. I think everybody would share that, and again, starting at the bottom, working your way up. I know I found it in my own career. It allows you to better appreciate that individual that's doing that job, because you've done that job.
Absolutely.
So you're recognizing their work because you've seen it through your own eyes. So having that on the job experience and, doing different jobs and occupations, when you become somebody in a leadership position, as you have established, Rob, makes you a great leader, because you're going to be there and recognizing people's work, quality work, to recognize them, but also appreciate the fact sometimes people need more help. And if you haven't done that job, you're more like, hey, hurry up, get this job done. You don't know how long it takes to do the job. Say, hey, let me get you some help down here. You're obviously overwhelmed.
Absolutely.
So learning from the ground up is so many, just so many, to all young folks out there listening, get out there and do something, right? And you can migrate in and out from there, but it's you can learn, but applying that knowledge is really the key, and it just stimulates more activity. So we're going to bring Sam in. Thank you very much, Rob.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. I'm going to bring Sam into the equation here. Sam Weber, as you heard, Michelle is a CMP, been there a long time. And again, we're going to go back to that original question so you folks can hit the chat box. What do you think Sam aspired to be? Now, this is a little bit of a loaded question. Okay, I would expect most of you to get it right, but I don't know. Do you think Sam wanted to be a diesel mechanic or an actor? I mean, I've worked with Sam, so I know he is kind of he's kind of a character actor, I'm calling the kettle black here, but yeah, no, I see him coming in. Oh, this is Michelle. This is a great feature, and Pamela. This is a great feature. Somebody said a linebacker. We need him to play Sunday in the Pats game. Well, I don't think it's going to be a great surprise. Sam wanted to be a diesel mechanic, and that's going to kind of lead us a segue into Sam's story. Sam, you've worked at CMP for decades, and you started out like Rob and I, kind of entry level, getting your foot in the door and trying to prove yourself. But something was different about you in your situation was you discovered something out of your area that interested you, and you had to go, back to school and kind of retool yourself to have the opportunity to gravitate into that area. So I guess the question is, what motivated you to make that change, and what was involved to actually make it happen?
Well, kind of like you, when I was young, I always liked cars and trucks and mechanic. I still do. I have a shop at home, and in my spare time, I fix cars. I wanted to be a diesel mechanic, and I went to Northern Maine Technical College for 2 years outside of high school, and got a degree in diesel hydraulics. Came back home. I'm from the Augusta area originally, and I worked at a truck shop for a few years, and then I got into Central Maine Power's garage as a night mechanic. So as you started out, you work second shift, 4 to midnight. And of course, the best time to work on the trucks is when the people aren't there using them. So you start at the bottom at working nights, and line work was something I never thought about. It had never crossed my mind. I didn't know any line workers. But as I started working in the garage, I was introduced to line work, the equipment, the trucks, the people, the stories. So I said, wow, I want to do this. This is something that I never knew about, but I became very interested in it. So for 1 year, and I went to the company, and they said they would pay for me to go to Kennebec Valley Technical College to take the line worker program. So for 1 year, I worked 17-hour days. I got up at 5 in the morning and I went to school all day. And then I went to the shop at CMP and I worked 4 to midnight. So I did this for a whole year. Loved it. I learned all my hands-on and theory and electrical theory, and I learned line work. So once I graduated, I was an apprentice line worker that you get a apprentice rating when you get out of the school. I posted into the line department, and I've been a line worker at Central Maine Power in Augusta for 20 years, and I've worked here 25. So, and I've worked with you, Shawn, at your collision center in Augusta. So,
Speaking of live wires, huh, Sam?
yeah, that's right. And but I wanted to do more, and as Shawn said, it is about making money, and I always like working. Even when I worked as a truck mechanic before CMP, I worked for contractors at night on their equipment. And I guess the big thing about the line work is, as everyone knows, it's either snowing, it's windy, it's thundering, or it's hot. So the overtime is there if you want to work. And I like to work, and I still like to work. I'm actually the lead line worker in Augusta. So I'm the head lineman for the whole crew. And it was a great decision. It was a hard year to do 2 things, but it paid off, and I love my job.
Wow. Sam, thanks again. Like Rob, it's so, I don't know, I'm probably enjoying this probably as much or more than anyone, just hearing this. It's inspiring. And I think to all young adults and middle schoolers out there, if you hear, the commonality between the 3 of our backgrounds, there was a lot of adversity. There's a lot of sacrifices to get to where you wanted to go. These things don't come easy, but because of that hard work and discipline and dedication, you become rewarded. It's, life's a long road. And so, you buckle down and you kind of focus in on what you want to try to achieve and be willing to make those sacrifices. And believe me, you're going to stand out. Employers today recognize a good work ethic, somebody that's honest, somebody that's punctual. Just those things are going to advance your career in and of itself, education aside, occupation aside. Those things right there, you as a person, your value set that you establish at a young age are going to create that pathway and opportunity for you in life. So Sam, I got another question for you. When you went back to school, what was some of the accreditations or whatever that you received that were really necessary in order for you to have a shot at that position?
I went to Kennebec Valley Community College, and it's a 1-year program with a certificate in line worker technology. You take hands-on 3 days a week, are hands-on in the yard, climbing poles, learning the basic skills, because of course you're going to start as an apprentice. So you learn all the tools, the techniques, climbing poles, the equipment. And the other 2 days are classroom, where you do have to take some theory on electricity, which helps, and a math and an English class. And so when you get out, you get a year credit. Our progression is a 5-year from a line helper to a first-class line worker. So you get a year credit once you take the school. So you come in as an apprentice, and you can go anywhere, really. There are other line schools in the United States. This one's local because we're local, so it's right in Fairfield. But electricity is pretty much the same through the whole world. So you can take this job anywhere in the United States. You could work anywhere. And I have my latest trip, I went to Hurricane Ida, and I was in New Orleans for 3 weeks working, and their equipment was a little different, and some of stuff looked a little different, but the theory is the same, and it's a real good feeling when you flip the switch and turn thousands of people on, and you know you did it. So you can.
What they think of your accent down there in New Orleans, Sam?
They had the accent. It wasn't me, but I've done that with CMP. I've worked in New Brunswick. I've worked in Long Island, Rochester, New York, Louisiana. It was a long trip. It was really hot. I think that was the biggest thing I wasn't used to. Was it was 105 degrees with 100% humidity a few days, and it was a long ride in a bucket truck, 3 days, but it's a good feeling to help out.
Right.
So,
yeah, thanks, Sam. And again, I just try to, as a facilitator, try to capture some of the essence of what, Sam and Rob are saying. And again, gratification comes right from all of the work that we do is gratifying, helping people, that's a common thread. Yes, you're going to make a living, and yes, you need to, and these are lucrative positions, but it's beyond that, and then I would like to think, as an organization, the things that we'll be able to do to give back, by participating today, to help, hopefully gives you, an edge or a jump start or creates that thought process to, man, this is a big world out there, and I have a lot of opportunities, I have a lot of potential. I got to recognize and realize that. And then a lot of it's going to be driven by who you choose to spend your time with. If you spend your time with motivated, smart people that want to succeed, that's going to rub off. And, so that goes into choosing your friends and choosing who you're going to spend your time with. And I would encourage you to be active. I kind of put knowledge in 2 categories. I put it like the acquisition of knowledge, which you're doing today. You're learning, you're listening, and you're processing all these things. But then there's a really next really big component is the application of knowledge. Okay, now that you know these things, what are you going to do about it? Or what are you going to do with it? So I think as a society, I think we're probably lacking in the application. I think we know a lot, and it's typically not knowing more. It's applying what we already know to help us. And it kind of, it feeds off itself, positivity kind of feeds off itself. So as you extend yourself, you're going to get rejected, maybe you're not going to get the job, part-time, like we're talking about. Well, no, they're not hiring. No, it's not the right fit or whatever. You keep knocking on those doors, it'll open. And then what you make of it is really a lot up to you. Your attitude, your insight, and your desire, as Rob said, he's very right, having that desire. So we're going to go back to our original question, and hopefully we've had some impact here in these discussions. That what we wanted to weigh in on is, when you hear the word trades, what's the first thing that really comes to mind? If you could put that in the chat box, that'd be great.
Wonderful discussion today. There's some questions that have come in, Shawn. So I'm going to read a few of them while time allows, and then we can see what the group has said. So Sam, when you were talking, there was a question that popped up in a comment. We all start there, meaning from the bottom. Tell us some strategies you used. What are things you told yourself to keep yourself going while you are still at the bottom? I guess that would be a great question for anyone. But Sam, do you want to take that one first?
Sure. When I look at something, anything I'm going to do, a lot of people might say, I'd like to do this. My motto is, when am I going to, I am going to do this, and just how long is it going to take me to get there? Failing is not one of the things I go with. I wanted to work at CMP. It's a good company. I was a mechanic, and I just kept applying and networking to find, I had some friends that worked here to get in, and I never gave up, and I finally got my job. And when I wanted to be a line worker, I had to wait a year because the class was full, and I just kept talking to linemen, and failure was not an option. I was just going to do it, and it eventually got there, and it was a long trip, but it paid off. So I hope that's what you wanted for an answer.
I think Failure was not an option. I think that's
No.
an awesome segue there. There was another question that came in the chat. What are the costs associated with high school or post-secondary training or licensing? So that question could be for anyone, but when high school kids or students are going for some training or licenses, what are the costs associated with those?
I could put I served on the university system board of trustees and the community college, the only person to ever serve on both at that time. And we really finally get that pathway to share credit. So you could go to Kennebec Valley Community College, for instance, and then migrate to University of Maine at Augusta. And those credits would actually go with you and keep the cost down and create a pathway to get your bachelor's degree. So community college is very affordable. I think 92% of the students are commuter students, so you don't have the room and board, which is very expensive. So you're commuting. We have 7 campuses. I act like I'm still on the board, but we have 7 campuses around the state. So it's around $4,000 a year, and I'm sure there's some books, costs, and things in there. But that's, to get your associate's degree, you're talking $10,000 or less. You can't even buy a good used car for $10,000. That's a lifetime investment. So that's where you would acquire your accreditations, your certifications, industry specific, that Sam did. And they have a great line program, blue collar scholarship, actually gives scholarships to encourage people. CMP is a big participant in that, a funder of that. And so I would say community college is a great pathway if you want to get into the trades, and then you can still migrate on to get your 4-year degree, because you may want to run a business and go on and get your business degree or own a business.
Thank you, Shawn. A few more questions in here, which are great. One says, good morning. My students are wondering about construction jobs. So talking a little bit, what are some good construction companies if students are interested in going that route?
Wow.
Anyone want to take that one? I know it's not your industry, but any insight there?
I would jump in on that. I watched personally as a local company, Chinbro, built the facility that I run now, and also the one up the road, which is only about a mile from here, or 3/4 of a mile. And they had every aspect from people that were cleaning the building, electricians, carpenters, masons. I mean, they had every aspect of the gamut of the trades here and at the other facility. There are other big name companies as well, but this one happens to be employee owned and run, and it also is local to us. So it actually shares the same town, Pittsfield. Their corporate headquarters is right here at the top of the hill above our facility. So that's one, and I'm sure the other 2 gentlemen or yourself, Michelle, probably know a lot of names of others, but they're in the papers all the time. They're always hiring as well, and a lot of them have apprenticeship programs inside, and they do those same things that we do. They bring somebody in, they give them the schooling, they send them to the licensure or certification programs, and they bring them up through to where they can get their own license, and then they hope they stay, obviously, but you can take that license with you anywhere you go. So that's just one of many.
Is somewhat unique in the fact that they actually have their own training institute, which has a certified curriculum instruction. So they actually have their own school right there on site at the Pittsfield location. Yeah, there is an organization called Associated General Contractors, and they're a great organization. Matt Marks is the director. So they could, if you contacted them, AGC is the suffix, they could give you the list of contractors in your local area, because I know you guys are listening from all over the state. You have Shaw Brothers, you got Grondon, you got Gorham Sand down this way, and Chinbro, as Rob mentioned. But Associated General Contractors, AGC, could give you a list of best in class contractors in your local area.
Great, thank you. There's another question. This could go for anyone who would like to take it. Programs like this help tremendously. We find that students often miss out on vocational program opportunities if they become interested too late in their high school tenure. What are some ways that juniors or seniors who don't get into the voc programs can gain skills and experience in the trades which they're interested in. Who would like to take that one?
I don't want to dominate the conversation, but it's in my wheelhouse. I'm sorry, but I think it's that question is really a challenge. It's a challenge question because that's really what our educational system is trying to do right now, especially here in Gorham through the work of Aspire. We're trying to open up the trades or the occupation discussion as low as elementary school, and through middle school. So exposure is key. Getting the students. We've done job fairs. We have job bus tours. We've done so many things to try to connect the community with our local employers. And I would say that that's work in process because that's an area where we haven't done a great job and we can do better. And we're certainly focused on it.
That is wonderful. So I want to read you a few of the comments that came in the chat, and then we'll do a few more questions here. So I'm seeing now when they think of the trades, opportunities, hands-on, make a difference,
Wow.
life, job security, stability, gratifying work. So these are really, really great comments. Thank you for those who participated. We have time for a few more questions, so I'm going to keep going. A question in the chat here. What are you doing to get into the classroom in schools to start recruiting future employees? Sam, is that one that is Central Maine Power doing any of that work? Can you comment on that?
Yes. And actually I've done this many times, been asked by high schools or local vocational schools to just to come in and bring a bucket truck and just give a presentation about line work. And I'm actually doing it Tuesday at the vocational school in Augusta. So for the high school electrical class. And anything that we can help the community, we will. And I like going and talking. And I think my question about an actor or a mechanic was actually right, both. And I am in the new commercial too. So look for me there. But I've been doing it for years, going to the schools and just doing a presentation and going over the trucks and the job, and they have a lot of questions. So, yep.
Great. Rob or Shawn, anything that you would add to that question?
I can add in that our HR group here does a lot of social media and also tries to promote that way. But we are absolutely open to going into schools or having schools reach out to us to see if there's anything that we can do or say to help. I know they tend to concentrate on some of the technical centers, if you will, which is high school level, to try to get some interest there as well. So we're definitely willing as a company to reach out and try to pull people into those trades also.
Wonderful. I'm going to try to squeeze in two more questions here. One comment here, Shawn, your advice is to find a good employer and to start at the bottom. At age 18, how do you recognize a good employer and someone who wants to mentor?
That's a great question. Well, you can start at the top. I mean, I wouldn't discourage them from trying to start at the third or fourth rung. But no, realistically, right, you're going to come in as an entry-level coworker. And I think your local word of mouth community, I think most people in their local communities know who the companies are that you'd want to. I mean, like Sam, he knew at a young age, he wanted to get into CMP. That was a good job with good benefits, good pay, and he's willing to sacrifice the hours and the shift, to accomplish that. So I think it's really relying on your parents. Your teachers are very, very aware of what's going on in the community. I think they could give you good advice. Guidance counselors could give you good advice as a resource. Parents, obviously, a guardian, whatever situation. And then I think you don't just have to jump at the first thing. Go drive by the place. Is it neat? Is it organized? Does it look like? Go in there. The people seem like they're happy in their work. I mean, you can learn a lot just from getting the vibes. Trust your own instincts. If it's a good fit for you. And those are some of the tips I'd give you.
That's
And
fantastic.
don't set your sights too low. Take that entry-level job and say, hey, 5 years, I'm gonna be running this place.
I love
Own
it.
I would add on that even if you are at the entry level job, treat it like it's the top of the company or the president. Do every job to the best of your ability and with everything that you've got, so that people will notice what you're doing and how you're doing it, so that they'll want to promote you.
That is great advice. The last question, I know we're on time here, but and this would be a question for all of you. So if you could go maybe right around, what is starting pay for an entry level job at your company? Would you be willing to share a range?
I'll start. Our company starts out at the entry level at $14 to $15.50, depending on which shift. And there's often quick promotions to earn higher than that if you're giving the effort.
Great, thank you, Rob. Sam, can you comment on that?
Yeah. If you start as an apprentice with the 1 year school, it's around $24 an hour.
That's fantastic. Thank you. And Shawn, I'll let you wrap it up.
Ours is more in line with Rob. It's probably entry-level apprentice is going to be around 14 to 15. And then we segregate our technical aspect in an A, B, or C technical level, A being the top, master craftsman or woman. And that ranges from say 14 to 18, 18 to 25, 25 and up. And then we've got administrative leadership positions, production manager, location leader, and those would range from 80,000 up to 6 figures. Our estimators, which go out and actually do the physical damage assessment that you probably would, not that you've been in an accident yet, I hope you haven't been, but if you have been, those are the folks that the front face of our company between the $50,000 and $75,000 range. So we have as CMP and Puritan a very wide array of jobs, roles, responsibilities, and pay ranges.
Wonderful. Well, Shawn, Rob, and Sam, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to provide some really great insights on the trades industry. I loved seeing the chats that come in. Thank you all for your wonderful questions. I love to see what you think of the trades now. Some really wonderful words: job opportunities, passion, variety. So thank you again to Moody's Coworker Owned, to Puritan Medical Products, and Central Maine Power for sponsoring and participating in the Junior Achievement Career Panel. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
Get out there and get after it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And Amy Marston is the contact person at Central Maine Power if anyone is interested from a school or would like more information.